Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People's Story. 5 years ago, I purchased my dream home in a quiet suburban neighborhood. After spending 15 years building my contracting business from scratch, I finally had enough saved for a proper down payment on a beautiful 2-story with a 3-car garage and enough driveway space for my work trucks. The neighborhood had an HOA, but the dues were reasonable, just $75 a month, and the rules weren't overly restrictive. I made absolutely sure before signing any paperwork that commercial vehicles were permitted on the property. It was specifically written in the bylaws that residents could park work vehicles on their property as long as they were maintained and not leaking fluids. My business was thriving by that point. I'd started with just myself and a single beat-up pickup after quitting my job at a large construction company where I'd been undervalued for years. Now I had 4 employees, 4 trucks, and more work than we could handle. I kept all the trucks clean, parked them neatly in my extended driveway, and even planted some decorative shrubs around the perimeter to make them less visible from the street. For the first 3 years, everything was peaceful. I got along well with my neighbors, often helping them with small repairs free of charge. I volunteered to help coordinate the annual neighborhood block party and even donated materials when the community wanted to build a gazebo in the common area. Life was good. Then came the annual HOA board election. I was too busy with a big commercial project to attend, figuring the same reasonable people would continue managing things. Big mistake. About a month later, I received a notice stuck to my door. Attention homeowner, new vehicle restrictions in effect. I scanned the document, my stomach dropping as I read the new rule. Maximum of 2 vehicles permitted per household. Additional vehicles will incur fines of $100 per day per vehicle. I immediately called the number listed for the new HOA president. "Hello?" answered a crisp, cold voice. "Hi, I'm calling about this new vehicle restriction. There must be some mistake. When I bought my home, the bylaws specifically allowed for commercial vehicles." "There's no mistake," the voice replied. The board voted unanimously to implement new restrictions to maintain neighborhood aesthetics and property values. "But I run a business. These trucks are my livelihood." "Perhaps you should have considered that before purchasing in our neighborhood," she said dismissively. "The rules have changed. You have 14 days to comply before fines begin accruing." "But this directly contradicts the existing bylaws. Don't changes require a vote from all homeowners?" There was a slight pause. "The board has executive authority to make modifications as necessary for community benefit. Your industrial vehicles are an eyesore. I've received numerous complaints." That was strange, because several neighbors had told me they appreciated how neatly I kept my trucks. "I'd like to appeal this at the next meeting," I said firmly. "As you wish. It's scheduled for next Tuesday, though I wouldn't get your hopes up." The meeting was held in the community center. About 30 homeowners attended, which was apparently a record turnout. I stood up when it was my turn to speak. "I'd like to address the new vehicle restriction," I began. "My contracting business requires these trucks, and the original HOA bylaws permitted commercial vehicles. I've maintained them properly and kept them neatly parked." The HOA president, a woman with an expensive haircut and perpetually pinched expression, cut me off. "The board has determined that unsightly work vehicles decrease property values. We've documented a 5% drop in comparable sales since you moved in." "That's not true," called out one of my neighbors who worked in real estate. "Property values have increased steadily over the past—" "We're not debating this," the president snapped. "The decision has been made." I took a deep breath. "According to Section 8 of the bylaws, rule changes that affect existing homeowner rights require a 2/3 majority vote of all residents, not just the board." The president's face flushed. "The board has executive authority in matters of community aesthetics." "That's not what the bylaws say," I persisted. She looked at me with thinly veiled contempt. "If you can't afford the fines, perhaps you should move somewhere more suitable for your business activities." Several homeowners murmured in disapproval at her tone, but nobody directly challenged her. The meeting moved on to other topics, and I left feeling defeated but determined. The next day, I contacted a real estate attorney. After reviewing the documents I provided, she confirmed my suspicion. "This rule change is procedurally invalid," she said. "They didn't follow their own bylaws for implementation. You could challenge this in court." "How much would that cost?" I asked. "Honestly, probably $15,000 to $20,000, and it could drag on for over a year." As we discussed options, she mentioned something interesting. "The housing market in your area has taken a hit recently. I've noticed several foreclosures and short sales in your neighborhood." That's when the idea struck me. How many properties would I need to control to change the HOA board? She looked surprised. Well, voting power is typically allocated by property, so if you owned more than 50% of the homes, you'd have controlling interest, but that's not really practical. How many homes are in the neighborhood? According to the HOA documents you provided, 47 homes. I did some quick math. So I'd need to own 24 homes to have control? She laughed, then realized I was serious. Technically, yes, but what if I told you I've been saving for years to expand my business and I might have the capital to do this? Her expression changed. In that case, we should talk about setting up an LLC to make the purchases. You wouldn't want the current board to realize what you're doing. Over the next 8 months, I executed my plan. The economic downturn had hit our area hard, and houses in the neighborhood were selling well below market value. I established an LLC with an ambiguous name and began quietly purchasing properties as they became available. Some I bought outright, others I financed, stretching my business credit to the limit. Meanwhile, the fines against me continued to accumulate. Every 2 weeks I received notices of violation, the total now exceeding $28,000. The HOA president even approached me one day as I was leaving for work. "Perhaps you didn't understand the severity of your violation," she said, arms crossed. "The board is preparing to place a lien on your property." I smiled politely. "I understand perfectly. I'm exploring my options." "There are no options except compliance or paying the fines." I just nodded and drove away in my truck. By month 8, I had successfully acquired 24 properties through my LLC. Some I rented out to carefully selected tenants, including a few contractors with work trucks, ironically. Others I left vacant while planning renovations. The HOA was becoming increasingly aggressive, now threatening foreclosure proceedings over the unpaid fines. It was time to make my move. I formally requested a special HOA meeting as a concerned property owner with urgent business. The board reluctantly scheduled it for the following week. I made sure every homeowner received proper notice, emphasizing the importance of attendance. The community center was packed that evening. The HOA president looked annoyed by the turnout as she called the meeting to order. "We're here at the request of this property owner," she said, gesturing dismissively toward me. "You have 5 minutes." I stood up, holding a thick folder of documents. "Thank you. I'd like to address several critical issues concerning HOA governance." "If this is about your trucks again," she began. "Actually," I interrupted, "I'm here in my capacity as the owner of 24 properties in this neighborhood." The room went completely silent. "What are you talking about?" she demanded. I placed the property deeds on the table. Through my company, I now own 51% of the properties in this neighborhood, which according to our bylaws gives me controlling interest in the HOA. Her face went from confusion to shock to anger in seconds. "That's impossible! You can't just—" "It's not only possible, it's done," I said calmly. "My first action as majority owner is to call for an immediate vote to dissolve the current board for violating the HOA bylaws through improper rule changes." "This is outrageous," she sputtered. "It's completely legal," I replied, nodding to my attorney who sat in the back of the room. "Now all in favor of removing the current board?" I raised my hand, which legally counted for 24 votes. Several other homeowners, including those who had previously been intimidated into silence, raised their hands as well. "Motion carries," I announced. "My second action is to invalidate all fines levied under improperly enacted rules effective immediately." I then tore up my stack of violation notices, letting the pieces flutter onto the table. The former president stormed out, followed by the rest of her board. Over the next few weeks, I established a new HOA board consisting of 5 homeowners with diverse backgrounds. We immediately reduced the monthly dues back to $75, eliminated petty restrictions, and implemented a transparent process for any future changes requiring a 2/3 majority vote from all homeowners. We created reasonable provisions for home businesses and work vehicles. No more than 4 per property, must be maintained and parked neatly. We also implemented a proper appeals process for any violations. The former HOA president stopped me in the driveway about a month later as I was loading equipment into one of my trucks. "You won't get away with this," she hissed. "What you did should be illegal." "What I did was purchase properties at fair market value," I replied calmly. "What you did, imposing arbitrary rules without proper procedure, was actually against our bylaws." "My husband is an attorney. We're looking into options to fight this." I shrugged. "You're welcome to try, but you might want to read the bylaws first, the ones you ignored when it suited you." She never did file any legal challenge. Within 3 months, her house was on the market, and she moved to a gated community across town. The most surprising outcome was how our neighborhood transformed. Without oppressive restrictions, homeowners began improving their properties. 3 other small business owners moved in, bringing new life to the community. We established a neighborhood business directory to support each other. Property values increased by 12% over the next year, significantly outperforming surrounding neighborhoods. The community became known for its entrepreneur-friendly environment and reasonable governance. As for me, I slowly began selling off some of the properties at a modest profit, giving priority to families and small business owners who appreciated our community values. I kept enough to maintain influence in the HOA, but no longer needed majority control since we'd amended the bylaws to prevent future abuse. I still serve as HOA president, though I've made it clear I'll step down after implementing all the governance reforms we planned. My business continues to thrive, and I've added 2 more trucks to my fleet, all parked neatly in a newly constructed parking area that actually looks better than my original driveway setup. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about creating something better from the ashes of pettiness and control. By standing up for myself, I ended up improving life for an entire community, and every morning when I see my trucks lined up ready for the day's work, I'm reminded that sometimes you have to fight for what's right, even if it means buying an entire neighborhood to do it. I taught them a lesson, and everyone, except those who thrived on controlling others, came out on top. The next one is a pro-revenge story. Backstory. I worked at this hotel for over 2 years and was one of 2 people left that went through the training when our hotel changed hotel franchises. During this training, we were told about certain rules the company had: cast manager, front desk manager. He only was here for 6 months at this point. Me, I am a nice guy unless you are a bully or entitled person. A few others I will mention as we go through. Story. One afternoon I was scheduled to work second shift 3:11. I walked in and both AM front desk co-workers looked like they had been massively crying as their makeup was smeared. My manager looking quite pissed. I ask, "What's wrong?" Manager, "We have a major jerk as a guest. This guy is the highest level on the rewards for the hotel chain. He is very demanding and wants free upgrades, free this or that, and screams anytime he has an interaction with the staff. This guy has made every department call me complaining about him. Now this guy just came to the desk and screamed at these 2 co-workers until they both were crying. These 2 ladies were fresh high school graduates and were very sweet and innocent people. They loved helping people and didn't deserve this treatment." As he is explaining this, I look up this guy's room details. Once my manager finishes explaining everything this guy had done, I see this guy's info. I had a smile from ear to ear. I reply, "Didn't you see he is an employee of a different hotel?" Manager, "Yes, but so what?" I replied, "First off, while you travel as an employee, you are required to behave and be respectful. It is in the fine print on the discount form." I grabbed his form and showed it to the manager. Failure to be respectful can lead to having your employee discount suspended or permanently revoked, and even get you terminated. You need to call this guy's hotel and ask for the GM, then explain to him who you are and what this guy is doing. I look up the hotel phone number and call the hotel, and then handed my manager the phone. Manager, after his call ends with the GM, he has an evil and satisfying smile on his face. His GM is steaming mad after I described all the stuff this guy has done. Main switchboard phone rings. I answered, "Hello, thank you for calling hotel name. How may I direct your call?" Caller, "I want to speak to entitled jerk's room, please." I replied, "Absolutely, sir. Have a nice day." Transfer the call and looked at my manager and saying with a sarcastic tone, "Someone wanted to talk to entitled jerk G. I wonder who that could be." Manager continues after he stopped laughing. "The GM gave me his personal cell phone number and said if I have any more issues at all to call him immediately. I am leaving the phone number next to the switchboard. If you need it, call him." I told manager, "Your revenge is done. Now for my revenge." Manager wide-eyed, "Oh crap, what are you going to do?" Me smiling a very evil smile, "You'll see." I pick up the phone to make a call. "Hello, Hotel Rewards customer service. Yes, I would like to report someone using reward account while using employee discount on his stay. Customer service. "He can't do that." I replied, "I know I am calling to report him." I gave her the guest reservation number and rewards member number. I continued, "I bet anything if you dig through this guy's history, you will find all his stays are probably at employee discount, customer service. I am starting a ticket to have this guy's account investigated." I replied, "Thank you," then hang up the phone. The manager watched as I then remove his rewards number from his stay. My manager had a huge grin on his face. "That was awesome," I explained. "Oh, I am not quite finished with him yet. It is time to go spread the news to all departments. He is no longer a rewards member." I made a new key for his room without concierge access. I walked around to every department. As I explained why I was stopping by, everyone had the same reaction as soon as I mentioned the guy's name. "Oh God, now, what about this a-hole?" I finished explaining how he was no longer a reward member and if he gives anyone issues to call the front desk immediately, and his GM already probably tore him a new one just a minute ago. Everyone was so happy at this news. I finally went to the concierge room, used the guest's new key to void his current key. Then I walked into the room and explained the information to the evening concierge. She cringed at the mention of his name, after explaining she would not have to deal with him again, and asked her to leave the morning person a note about this guy not allowed in the concierge room anymore. She was very happy. While I was gone, evidently, the manager explained what we did to the 2 a.m. front desk ladies. The minute I got back to the desk, both my front desk coworkers all came up to me and gave me a huge hug and thanked me so many times. Manager to me after the other coworkers went home, "Do me a huge favor, please." I replied, "Sure, what's up?" Manager, "If I ever piss you off, please come tell me so I can fix the issue." Later that night, entitled Jerk comes to the desk hat in hand, politely saying his key doesn't work. I replied, "Oh, so sorry about that. Let me make you a new key," in the best fake smile I can muster. Aftermath. Next day, I check his rewards account, and it is now suspended. Check back next week. Sorry, account number not found. The next one is a malicious compliances story. So I am telling this story because the friend involved recently died from a short but valiant battle with cancer. She went from the doctor saying, "Well, we need to do a biopsy, it's probably nothing," to a call from her 5 weeks later saying she was going into hospice care with just a few days to live. But saying goodbye brought up some tough memories, and a funny one. I decided to go to a meetup a different friend from work suggested I might enjoy. A tiki club that met weekly, but not only at tiki bars. 50s-style diners were also part of the club. It was at a local dessert place with a 50s diner flair that also serves some good coffee. I think this is my second or third meetup with them, and it is a good group. Several of them rode motorcycles or even Vespa scooters, as I did, an old 70s Honda CB 554. 4. I sit down with my coffee and am talking with one of the guys who just bought a new Triumph Bonneville when someone comes up to the table, sits down, and takes a drink of my coffee. What the actual duck? I look over, and it was, to my utter astonishment, Wayward. Wayward, which was her nickname, was an old girlfriend. We had a short but enjoyable summer together after I graduated from HS, and she was working before going off to college. She went off to college, me to the Navy, and we lost track of each other. This being the days before the internet. I had been married for 15 years at this point and had a child. While she was single, it was a strange but platonic friendship that revolved around the meetup club. The dessert diner was a favorite, and every time I would get a coffee, she would steal it and drink from the other side. It was a thing we had. It was a good way to get out of the house as I worked from home, and that could be isolating, but it was not without its problems. One of the older women in the club was a real attention whore and instigator. She really did not like Wayward, who wasn't out there causing her problems, but Wayward did a lot for the club, and it showed up, Miss Attention Slut. My wife? Well, she had no interest in the club, and she saw it as a chance for her to hang out with her friends down the street or have them over. She thought the thing with Wayward was cute and charming. My wife has 0 jealous bones in her body and cannot stand attention whores. She laughed when I told her the latest Miss Attention Slut's antics. Oh, and a true redhead's temper. So several years of friendship in the club go by, with various amounts of harassment and whispered rumors by Miss Attention Slut. It was the yearly club planning dinner, and Miss Attention Slut had had more than her share of box wine. Wayward, who got tied up with a patient and was late, came in after the dinner and gave me a hug. Miss Attention Slut said in a loud stage whisper to everyone, "Gee, I wonder what Miss Raccoon would think of that. Maybe someone should tell her." I saw red. I pulled out my phone and speed dialed my wife. "Oh, you have something to say to my wife. Do you miss Attention Slut? Let me help you out here." I put it on speakerphone. "Hey, honey, someone here has something to say to you about me and Wayward." "Oh? Hand me over to her, dear." And when Miss Attention Slut tried to say something, Miss Raccoon let her temper fly. She read her the riot act, mocked her, ripped her up one side and down the other, and told her to keep her nose out of other people's business if she liked the way it looked. She would never hurt anybody, but it sounded like she would, and that was what counted. The club heard it. It grew silent. Miss Attention Slut was imitating a fish out of water. She was turning even pinker than the wine could account for, and Miss Attention Slut was imitating a fish out of water making ah sounds. Then my wife started to laugh, which her laugh is very infectious. Other people started to laugh. Miss Attention Slut started to really turn pink, then ran out of the room. A 60-year-old woman crying like a toddler. Well, in the spirit of the Tiki Club, here's to you, Wayward. Fair winds and following seas. The next one is an entitled parent's story. For context, I'm 17 years old, and this had just happened during my spring break for school. This year, my school had decided to have our spring break a few weeks later in the year, which originally I had thought would have been annoying considering the fact that in prior years our spring break was usually at the beginning of March. However, my school decided to have it happen at the end of March. Because of this, my spring break ended up happening over the week of my birthday, and due to it being my last high school spring break and over my birthday, my parents let me decide where we were going to go for a nice vacation. I decided that I wanted to go to Colorado for skiing due to it being near the end of the season, which meant fewer lines for lifts at the expense of less snow. I had also invited 2 of my friends to come with me, that way we could all spend our last high school spring break together. However, lucky enough for me, the week in which we went to the lovely resort known as Beaver Creek, it had also snowed almost 8 inches the night before our first day of skiing. My friends and I were super excited to start skiing, and overall were having a great time, until we had encountered the unfortunate situation of being face to face with a male Karen. We were just about to head up a ski lift when we met a 74-year-old snowboarder in the single rider's line. He had asked if her could ride with us up the lift, and we said sure, considering the fact that it was me and my 2 friends and it was a 4-person lift. I also realized that the 74-year-old had a cool European accent, either of German or Austrian descent. Then, out of nowhere came this male Karen, who started getting up in the 74-year-old's face. This is the conversation that followed for why the random middle-aged a-hole was upset. A-hole: "Hey man, are you really not going to say anything?" 74-year-old: "Excuse me?" A-hole: "You just ran over the top of my skis with your snowboard and aren't even apologizing." 74-year-old: "Oh, that is my bad. I didn't notice that I had, but if I did, I apologize." A-hole: "Yeah, man, it is your bad." At this point, I hadn't said anything because I had thought the middle-aged douchebag was just joking, but then he put his hands on the 74-year-old and pushed him on the ground. I had realized by now that this asshole wasn't joking and was in fact completely serious. Me: "Whoa, whoa, whoa, dude, you can't do that." A-hole: "Why not? He's the one who ran over my skis." Me: "I don't give a duck what he did. You have no right to talk to him like that, let alone lay your ducking hands on him." Once I had started yelling at him, many people in line began to berate the man and start calling him things that I don't even think are safe to say on Reddit, haha. I don't know what happened to him after that because our lift had arrived and me, my buddies, and the 74-year-old hopped on. However, I hope someone in that line kicked his ass because me and my friends waited at the top of the lift for him but never saw him come up. As for the 74-year-old, it turned out that he was super chill. The whole way up the lift, he told us some crazy lore about himself and how he was an amateur windsurfer in Europe and how he had been snowboarding for the past 25 years. I wish there was more of a satisfying ending that involved me giving that rich prick what he deserved. A suplex followed up by 15-12, 6 elbows to the face. However, there isn't. And if the middle-aged dick who I'm talking about sees this, just know a 17-year-old has more maturity than your rich, snobby ass. Moral of the story: don't be an entitled piece of shit, respect your elders, and always speak up for those who are being mistreated. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.